I have found and caught hundreds of snakes in the wild in my lifetime. But among all of the snakes I've encountered, there's one that has remained a mystery and has eluded me this far despite all of my efforts. The plains garter snake is native to most of central North America, and it ranges as far north as Canada and as far south as Texas. Although the IUCN lists this species as least concern, here in Ohio it is considered an endangered species and is restricted to one single grassland. So for the next 48 hours, my plan is to track down the elusive plains garter snake and finally check it off of my life list. It was a pretty gloomy day when I first arrived at the marshy grassland. It seemed like it had been raining for the past few hours, the ground was soaking wet. This place is home to a ton of rare snake species that I don't get to see every day. There's not a lot of stuff to flip here, so my plan was to just hike up and down the fields. After about an hour of doing this, I finally had some luck.
Big garter right here.
This is an eastern garter snake. This is a very common species of snake found everywhere here in eastern North America. It looked like it just had a big meal, so I left it alone and continued my search. At this point, it was about 11 o'clock in the afternoon, the skies cleared, and it started to warm up. In an hour alone, I probably found about 25 ticks crawling up my legs. These wet fields are absolutely littered with these crayfish burrows.
Look at this honking thing. Jeez.
Usually the crawdads are deep down in their burrows, hanging out in the water, but I found this one up at the surface. I gotta hand it to him, he was doing a pretty good job burrowing despite not having one of its claws. Not that big of a deal though, because they're able to regenerate lost limbs. I was being very cautious as I made my way through the field because there are rattlesnakes found here. Although it didn't have a rattle, I did find another snake. This is a smooth green snake. They're found throughout much of northern North America, and I think they look sort of like the snake emoji. They're completely harmless and not venomous. They'll often open their mouths like this one did to try to threaten you, but they rarely ever bite. They're often found in these marshy grasslands just like the one I've been exploring. I took a few videos before carefully putting it right back where I found it.
I'm gonna go check out what's living around this pond.
I saw a lot of birds, but most of them were these tree swallows. They're a migratory species that spends their winter in Central America. In the summertime, they make their way back up to North America to reproduce. I moved on to checking out some of the really wet areas that were a few hundred yards away from the pond. These looked a lot like puddles in the ground, and it's where I found this snake. It's another smooth green snake, and this one's about a full-size snake. Unfortunately, it looks like it's about to go through the process of shedding, so the colors aren't as vibrant as they usually should be. Regardless, it's still an incredibly cool looking animal. As far as habitats go, this place is pretty uncommon here in Ohio, but what makes this place so special is that it's just one small part of a much larger ecosystem known as a tallgrass prairie. More specifically, it's located in the Prairie Peninsula. It is characterized by open skies and vast stretches of rolling grasslands. This ecosystem ranges from southern Canada down through the American Midwest into parts of Kansas, Nebraska, and the Dakotas. It sprawls east into parts of Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio. It's home to a huge variety of wildlife. Think bison, elk, deer, and of course, the plains garter snake. However, what used to be an expanse of grasslands into the forests of eastern North America is now fragmented, split up because of the ever-growing need for more farmland. The grassland I'm exploring in this video is what remains of what was once the most extensive single wet prairie area in the state of Ohio. I didn't find a plains garter snake the first day, so I traveled back to the grassland. And on one of the roads leading into the fields, I found what is basically a living dinosaur. This is a common snapping turtle. They're extremely long-lived animals with an incredibly powerful bite. Adults can range anywhere from about 10 inches across their shell to upwards of 20 inches, and this one was definitely on the larger side of that. It also had a few leeches on its legs, but it was too risky to get close enough to pull them off.
Alright, let's get him moved off the road.
That'll work. Oh, check that out. That ironic moment when you spend the entire previous day hiking just to find a snake on the side of the road under a piece of trash.
I just flipped this beer box and found this little decayed brown snake right next to this fella.
sort of just hanging out in the middle of the road. Pretty cool. Okay, I'm gonna let you go. Then I moved on to carefully moving the turtle off the road. I'm gonna pick him up, but he's gonna be really heavy. Go on. Go on. Go on. Almost there. Off the road.
Huh?
Off the road. Almost got me there. Get this thrown away. These grassland fields can be unforgiving. Without the protection of trees, the sun is hot and bakes the ground for most hours out of the day. A lack of constantly available water makes this ecosystem especially susceptible to wildfires. But after the fire comes life. Even in this small area, this rare habitat boasts incredible wildlife diversity. And I was reminded of this as I heard weird sounds coming from the woods. I have to investigate what that is. Off in the distance was a pair of sandhill cranes, large and majestic birds with an unmistakable call. While scanning through the fields for a plains garter snake, I stumbled across a few pieces of tin. Underneath the first one, I found 2 garter snakes. However, neither were the species I was looking for. Under the next piece of tin, I found an eastern Massasauga rattlesnake. Their venom is mostly hemolytic, which means it breaks down red blood cells. So this is not a piece of tin that I was going to flip. I then found another garter snake foraging through a field, just an eastern, not quite the plains I set out to find. So I set it back right where I found it. I continued on for what felt like countless miles through the field, the whole time keeping my eyes out for a slither. I hiked so much that my shoes literally started falling apart.
My boots are cooked, man. No.
But I continued on, watching, waiting for anything out of the ordinary. At around 4 p.m., I saw something out of the corner of my eye.
I just saw a snake move through this grass.
A flash of color. I briefly lost it,
Can't find it.
then I saw it again.
There.
Then it disappeared, down into this burrow. It was a snake, but I was unsure what species. I set up my camera and walked away to hopefully catch whatever snake it was on camera. It was a garter snake, and I was really excited when I realized that this one looked a lot different than the ones I've been catching for the past 48 hours. It has black lines on its upper lip, and there was a bright orange stripe down its back. These key characteristics could only mean one thing. It was a plains garter snake. It pretty much took me a full 2 days to track down this snake, but in the end it was all worth it because I finally got to see this animal up close.